So speaking of our work life, it is said that most people spend a third of our lives at work. And of course, it's only natural that we're going to be making friends in the process. But once you're in a position that is lower than the friend that you make or higher than the friend that you make in the company that you work for, how does that work? So do you think that you can be friends with your colleagues outside of work? And how does it change with the dynamic if it's like a family-run business?
I think for me, I'm very much lean towards the side of being friendly rather than friends with the people that you work with, because I just feel there's just something in me. For a lot of people at work, I just don't trust them. I'm not going to lie to you. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean to trust them in order to let them in my life, because I feel like most people are there to work and to make their life secure, and aren't at the workplace to try and make really, really good friends with people. If it happens, I'm not going to block it. But I think in general, I'd rather prefer to keep the lines very distinct so that there isn't really any confusion if something difficult comes up. That's just me.
None of your work friends got invited to your wedding then?
No, a lot of people from work got invited to my wedding, because these are people that I'd worked with for like 4 years, and it's a very small office. So it was like only a handful of people. So that would have been bad mind. Like, oh, there's only 6 of us, but I don't have space for you. So no, like I said, I'm very friendly with the people at work. But for me, friends is some next level thing. You're the person I'm going to call when I'm down and out and I'm crying because I'm heartbroken or things aren't going right in my life. That's a friend to me. So I can be very friendly with people at work and chat and talk and keep up to date. But in terms of being like a friend, that's a very serious word for me.
Yeah, no, I feel that energy 100%. And I think a lot of people get confused with me because I'm very sociable, like very sociable. I'm very friendly, like very talkative. I'm the type of person that, I make friends with people on public transport and stuff, So I think for me, I've seen so many, in terms of the difference in position, I've seen so many people abuse their power in social situations outside of work. And I just try to stay a little bit mindful of that because it makes me uncomfortable and I don't like to play those games. And so what I mean by that is, like, I've seen managers order people around in a social setting where people are supposed to be like letting their hair down and it's got nothing to do with work. And I've also seen people use the leverage of them being in a position of power at work within social situations in a different way, if that makes sense. So knowing that, like, if you want to go to this party, no one's going to say you can't come because we know that it's going to affect us at work if we say you're not invited and then we go the next day and you've messed up my shift pattern because you're in your feelings about it. So I think it depends on the type of people they are, because most of the time people who do abuse their power they're kind of insecure in their own life and they're kind of feeling like a little bit powerless in their life outside of work. And so they try to like leverage onto a false sense of like worthiness, if that's like not a horrible thing to say, but essentially that's kind of what I recognize going on. So yeah, it just depends on the people that I meet, but I'm with you in terms of being very friendly. I've definitely made long-term friends from people that I've met in work settings. But say like if I'm working in a team of 70, that's going to be like 3 people out of the 70 people that I've met that are actually my friend, instead of me just being like a friendly acquaintance with everyone else.
I'm so surprised to hear you say this, guys. Like, so surprised. Maybe it's just really contingent upon, like you say, the size of the workplace where, that can have such a big ramification if you make friends and you fall out with someone or you don't get along with someone. Some of my best friends are people that I've worked with, and I mean, like, not just going to their wedding, like it was nice to invite a few people from the office, like we've been on holidays together, we've been to weddings, been there when they've had like children. And there is, I kind of find this with lots of groups of friends, like even your group of friends that you have from school or a group of friends you might have from university or whatever, that you might have a group, but within the group, there's maybe 1 or 2 people that you like really click with, that you really vibe with. And once the group disbands, so when it's no longer convenient anymore, right? Because the big thing about your work friends is that you spend most of your time with them. So it's actually easiest to go, oh, okay, like the day's wrapping up. We finished a bit late, kind of hungry. Are you hungry? Should we grab dinner? And then you just end up going to have dinner together. Or like, it's Friday. Should we just go next door to the pub and have some drinks or whatever it might be? And then for a while you have that group thing where it's like, oh, actually it's my birthday at the weekend. Do you want to come out for some drinks? I've got other friends there. Once you no longer work together, for me, that's then the real test of whether that's a friendship or whether it's like friendly. And there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being friendly and like, living in the moment. And some people are just for a moment, right? They're just for a time and a place. And that's the space they were supposed to occupy in your life. But the real friends that come out of that, I've got some real ride or die friends that have come from places that I've worked that have, been there through the good, the bad, the ugly for me and vice versa. And so, yeah, I find that very strange. I really, and I'm trying to imagine what my life would be like without those people. And I can't imagine it. But if it wasn't for work, they wouldn't have come into my life. So
I think that goes into what we said a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about having relationships in work. And then that relationship psychologist said that familiarity and proximity aids attraction, but it can also, I presume, aid platonic attraction as well. Like the convenience of just being in each other's space all the time. Because to me, that's the same thing as school. Like, you get to know the people in your class so quickly. We're spending 5 days of the week together and maybe 5 years of our lives together, depending on what school you go to. So when we leave school, like, who are you still friends with? Like, who are you still hanging out with? You're not going to be tight with your whole class of 30, even if you were friendly with everyone, and everyone, whilst you were attending school would have been invited to your birthday. Now, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, who do you still spend time with, So I'm definitely open to like meeting people in any circumstance and having them become meaningful in my life. But I think it's just a ratio thing with me. Like, I'd say like 5% of any environment I'm in, that's where I leave with 5% of the people as a real friend.
I've had one good friend that's come out of work, but I don't even know if I would say it came out of work because I knew her before, and then we didn't really talk that much because we lived in different cities, and then we just happened to come together to work at the same organization together. And it was honestly the best working time of my life that I've had up to date. We shared an office together, so it was just me and her, and we did everything together in our work, and we were able to really collaborate our work projects together a lot. So that was a really great experience. But when she left the organization, honestly, I didn't realize how much of my job I loved because she was a part of it. And I think that was a really difficult thing. I had to learn to have this kind of new environment at work, but I wouldn't be closed off to that if it came again. I know that I just had some bad experiences because, have you ever been at a workplace where there's kind of like friendship cliques? And this is when I worked at a larger organization than the one I have most recently. And yeah, what happened was certain people who were closer to the manager got much more favorable treatment, and you knew who were the people who were going to get what they wanted at the workplace, whether they were going to make sure that they never got to work over the Christmas break, or if they got the best work patterns, or if their annual leave was always going to be guaranteed to be given to them. And I think sometimes I just want to stay away from that. Like, I hate cliques in general, but work cliques can be the worst because you don't know if people are actually getting ahead or getting what everybody else should just because they're not on the inner circle.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen it so many times, and for me, I just feel like, because I kind of separate my like creative work from the work that I use to fund my creative work. And so I think I've been very privileged in the sense that when I go into these jobs that aren't creative, I'm literally just going there to earn money. And so I don't have to play these games to try and get to the supervisor or try and get to the manager, because I'm literally just turning up to do the work, enjoy myself whilst I work, obviously, but then go home. So I feel like a lot of people, the reason why these kind of things happen, like cliques and not knowing like who has your back and things like that, is because people have an agenda and they have a reason to get ahead. And so like, I've luckily been able to stay out of that for the most part, because I don't have there's like nothing that I want from you, you know? Like I literally just am turning up here to do the work and leave. There's nothing in addition that I want so there's no ulterior motive for me, like spending time with someone apart from the fact that I like spending time with you.
I think that's maybe where I'm just thinking back over it, and I'm thinking that most of those people that I spoke about were peers of mine for the most part. We were kind of at the same level, I guess, in different teams. I think they're mostly friends that I had from advertising, because it was just a very kind of work hard, play hard kind of atmosphere. So we work long hours, and then when you're finished, there are other people that are still awake, the other people that you're just working with. But I guess we were different teams and stuff, so there wasn't that degree of, I guess, I mean, I think anyone who does that in terms of like cozying up to a manager or a superior is just a kiss ass, basically. So I don't know if I want to be friends with that person anyway, because I don't really rate that behavior. But then I think it's true. And I think coming back on it, if you are in a position of any degree of authority or power, then you have to be careful about the people that you like, how you play nice with people, because it's really difficult. Like I've had line reports who I've been out socially with them and stuff, but you do have to maintain a certain degree of distance, only because at the end of the day you're still a line manager, managee, whatever the terminology is. And I found that if you get too close, like there's nothing wrong with taking an interest in people on a personal level, like outside of the workplace, because I also think that helps you to understand things that might be affecting their performance in the workplace. And I think sometimes we really just to be very robotic about it. Whereas if you understand, like, okay, actually I'm a whole person, and maybe there's something else going on, and I'm just having a bad day today, that's why I'm not doing so well, that you can be a bit more empathetic. But if you're having a tricky time with someone, you just need to kind of have a serious conversation with them. If you become too pally, and I don't know, you've been out at the weekend and they've seen you like, you know, drunk off your face or whatever it might be, it can be really difficult to maintain those boundaries of respect, because it suddenly feels like, I don't know, you feel like this weird sudden like parent that suddenly like switched on them, and it's like, you know, now we need to sit down and have a serious talk, and that it blurs the lines a little bit. So I think if it's on a peer-to-peer level, it's all right. It's a bit more. It carries a lot less risk than something with a weird power dynamic. And I wouldn't want to be as well.
I actually had a manager who nailed that power dynamic, though.
That's not a good thing, though. I was going to say we'd spoken about it on the show before, where it's like if you did get if we did get a promotion or an extra opportunity, or like you said, you've been given your annual, whatever it is, I would never want anyone to think that was on the basis of anything other than the merits of me doing my job well. So I feel like as a line manager, as a superior, you need to be careful about the relationships you form with people that are, I guess, lower down in the hierarchy than you are. And
in the chain.
A junior person, I hate that word, because like a lot of workplaces actually are quite flat. No, but they are like, there is obviously on paper, there's a hierarchy, but things can be quite flat, right? We're all adults. But you equally have to be careful if you're a bit more junior, because you don't want to be perceived to be getting favors off people. The other thing I was also thinking as you were speaking is most of those things are also relationships and friendships that I've formed with other women. I think the thing that I've experienced with forming friendships in the workplace with people of the opposite sex has been more interesting, because it's almost like that's not allowed to happen. Like you're not allowed to just, you know, I had a project manager that I worked with who literally, like, all my projects were the same projects as him. So we were literally in all the same meetings, we were in all the same, working on the same projects, same deadlines. So we used to just end up taking lunch a lot of the time, because our lunchtime was between the meetings that we were both in. So we'd just go grab lunch, or, you know, he knew I was stuck on another meeting. He's like, do you want me to grab you lunch while I've gone out? I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And it was nothing going on, never has been, never will be. But this, like the little whispers in the office and stuff, because it's just like a guy and a girl can't just be friends.
That happened to me in the office, Marisha, and it was just, honestly, it was just the worst experience. And me and this guy would go home together because the local station was like a half an hour walk away from our office. So we would literally go to the same place together, and we were working just outside of London, and we were the only ones who actually lived in London. Everyone else kind of lived close to the office. And then this rumor spread how he and I liked him actually, and he had a very long-term girlfriend, and it turned very, very ugly. It was honestly just the worst experience, and he and I it never recovered. And I would say we were friends. We were friends at work, and there was just this really weird awkwardness after that. And it was, let me just say, I hope at the future places and the future where I get to work that I can actually make friends with people. But I think I've just had some really dodgy experiences that have just made me really want to keep
put you off a little bit
and my personal life very separate.
Oh man, that sucks. You know, I was gonna say that I had a manager who nailed the balance, because she.
I thought you was gonna say nail the worker.
I mean, she also. Come to think of it, yeah. Come to think of it, yeah. But it was funny because she was great. Like she was very honest and she was very blunt. So if we were messing up, she'd be like, "This is how you're messing up." If you were doing well, she'd be like, "This is how you're doing well." But then there were also so many scenarios where we could all be together and we could all be comfortable. And you know, you said something about getting messed up on the weekend, Marisha. But we've seen each other messy. Like she can't judge me for being a mess because I've seen you be more of a mess, you know. And it was just the level, and but it never carried into any sort of like lack of respect or you know, sometimes people don't recognize your authority if you're able to let your hair down with them. Like it never carried into that. And so she's one of the first managers that I had where she was really able to nail that dynamic. But now that you mentioned the thing about the guys and the girls, there was another manager who I was also friends with, but that I got I guess judgment from, because I guess I was a woman and he's a man, and people just presumed that there's something going on when you wouldn't presume that when I'm hanging out with my female manager, but you think I'm trying to do something with the male one. So it was just, I understand, yeah, where everyone's coming from. I just think it depends on who the person is before they got the job.